Patricia Miller is a member of SWSW and Codex, who writes science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Publications include short fiction in numerous anthologies, Metastellar, Zooscape, and Cinnabar Moth Literary Collection. A complete listings of stories, her occasional blog posts, and more info can be found at trishmillerwrites.com. Patricia, take it away.
Thank you, Kate. Picture Perfect is my professional debut story. I'll paste a link in the chat to a post about how the story was written and developed. I have added a few dialogue tags to the story as it was originally written to make it easier for you to keep track of the dialogue. I'll be giving away a copy of the anthology to a random entrant at the proper time in a couple weeks. It was one of those isolated, rambling country houses that spoke of old money, bloodlines, and generational trusts. My parents had one just like it. I had never understood the appeal of our family's summer home. It was too isolated, too crowded, too overwhelming with the sheer volume of noise and drama. This house seemed different, though, more alive than lived in. The portico covering the front entrance dwarfed my car. It was from an era when horse-drawn carriages needed to be sheltered from the weather, not 10-year-old Hyundai wagons. I parked under the granite arches and mounted the stairs leading to a massive front door. A clock inside chimed the hour as I rang the doorbell. An elegant man of indeterminate age opened the door almost immediately and waved me in. We did not exchange greetings. He led me upstairs and showed me 3 rooms, each with 9 empty easels set up to display my work for his perusal. You may choose which room you think would suit them best. Will you need assistance? He asked. No, thank you. He nodded. Take what time you need. The sunny glass-lined room in the south side of the house was the perfect venue. I made 9 round trips to the car and back, careful not to bump the oak wainscoting or, more importantly, the canvases. Some of them were still slightly damp. I pulled out my new cell phone, used the camera to document the original positioning of the easels, checked sight lines, sunlight, and shadows. The portraits were grouped, arranged, rearranged by age of subject, by size, by style. It took just over an hour before I was able to step back, satisfied to watch the play of light across the monochromatic faces in front of me. I left the room and peered over the carved balustrade. He was waiting patiently downstairs in the foyer. I cleared my throat ever so softly. At that signal, he climbed the stairs with an enviable ease and grace, joining me on the landing, and I escorted him to the sunroom. The easels were arranged in a serpentine fashion toward the west end of the room, displayed in chronological order, oldest to newest, from right to left. The head of the lineup greeted us at the door, and the last was turned toward the windows. Silently, he approached the first portrait. I held my breath. A tilt of the head, a bend at the waist to look more closely, a blink. He smiled left to the next canvas. He shifted next to the next canvas, then the next, moving at his own pace. Some of the faces received no more than a cursory acknowledgement. Others took long minutes of examination. I was certain no detail was overlooked. He did not take notes, nor did he offer any comment or ask any questions until he viewed them all. You were asked to paint the truth, he stated. Yes. Then if I may, let me tell you the truth as I see it in your work. I nodded agreement, and we started at the beginning, a full 3/4 portrait of a flawlessly maintained 50-something woman, pretending she wasn't a day over 40. Your mother, if I'm not mistaken. She was a well-known face to anyone familiar with the social register. Did she ever see you? I was a trophy, trotted out on special occasions as proof of her beneficence, until I outgrew that cute orphan phase. Once that happened, I was invisible to her. It's amazing what you can see in someone when they don't see you at all. And your father, practically a blank canvas to everyone. He was a little more than 3 thin slashes on gesso, a bare shadow of a profile. He was a means to an end, I replied. He had money to add to the family fortune and a good gene pool. meaning his genes wouldn't overwhelm hers, I imagine. The family likeness has always been striking. My sister, classically beautiful, barely rated a second glance. America has no need for princesses anymore, he sniffed. Her husband received a closer inspection. Dear God, what an ass. I keep hoping the Homo Americanus frat boy will die out, but they still roam amongst us. He was my brother's college roommate, a perfect match for my sister, I explained. She worshipped him, and he quoted romantic poetry to her. And all the while he was trying to corner you in the dark? Yes. He and my brother had a bet. Neither of them managed to collect on it. And this, then, is your brother. What's his head count? His third wife left him 2 months ago. She was willing to put up with the other women, the drugs, the alcohol. It was the temper that wore her down. The next 3 portraits were of my uncle and 2 cousins. They received wordless shakes of the head, but no comment. He stared at the last portrait for some time, moving from one side to the other to view it from different angles, even pulling out a magnifying glass to examine the brushstrokes. Finally, he straightened up and took a deep breath. She hated you, hated your very existence. Why? Why indeed, I thought. I never understood my Aunt Brendel until it was too late, although I learned early on that to even call her that made it worse. She never spoke of me without adding, she's adopted, you know, to my name. She hated the idea of me, I told him. She hated the idea of my questionable heritage polluting the family bloodline. Always said that blood will tell, and in my case, it wouldn't have anything good to say. And she had made certain that would never happen. The surgical scar was nearly invisible to the eye, but it echoed inside the hollow where my uterus should be. He backed away from the easels to the long bank of windows along the room's southern wall, leaning on one of the marble sills. The subtleness of the shading, the play of sunlight on the features, you picked the right room for your display. The details would have been lost in shadow, I said. True, he agreed. It's an impressive body of work. Although they are different in style, they are the same in substance. Any unbiased observer would agree the same hand painted each portrait. Well, thank you. As an exercise, it was more cathartic than I expected. And is the series complete, he asked. I would say so, yes. He reached out then, took hold of my right hand. He raised it to his lips, pressed a gentle kiss on a barely there scratch straddling my lifeline. Then welcome to my studio. I'm looking forward to seeing you work with a more expansive palette. He grinned, and I smiled for the first time. The monochromatic faces from my family tree had no more power to hurt me, and I no longer had to suffer for my art, although it turned out they did. It was a shame their blue blood only came in red. Thank you.